Hi, I'm Angela Ryder. Welcome to Clarity in Context Live. And today I wanted to talk about something that I see in sessions and I also see operating for myself, where people think they're disconnected from their intuition, that their intuition isn't clear or they're not able to connect with their intuition. But most of the time, that's not actually the problem. What I see in sessions is that the intuition does come in clearly, but then what happens afterward is something takes over immediately afterward. And it's what my spirit team describes as a mental construct. So, a mental construct has an energetic presence, it has a structure that is for processing. So, these are internal processing systems that are built from our conditioning, our fears, our beliefs, our experiences, um, protective patterning that we put into place. And they often override our intuition before we even realize it's happened. So today we're talking about how our intuition gets hijacked, what these loops look like, and how to recognize when it's happening and how to kind of break those patterns up so that you have access and ability to have your intuition come in clearly and stay clear. So, I want to talk about intuition as the original signal or the invitation, which usually comes in subtle, direct, simple, and sounds like leave this job or this isn't for you, go this way, say yes, say no. It's rarely going to come with a full explanation and whole backstory. And if you're getting backstory, that's where the mental construct jumps in because the initial intuitive signal is clean, but your mind has been trained to process your life through these safety frameworks. So instead of simply receiving this, leave this job, the construct begins. What about money? What if this fails? Maybe the timing isn't right. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I should wait. Remember what happened last time? So now intuition has become a story. And that story can feel louder than your original intuition that you had. So let's talk a little bit more about that mental construct. It, it's a, it is a patterned internal response system, and it's created to protect you, basically, help you survive uncertainty and make your life feel more predictable. It's also really helpful in other ways that we operate. Many of these constructs are useful. Pattern recognition itself is a real gift. We can follow those breadcrumbs and connect the dots in ways that we may have gotten an intuitive hit, and then we know to start looking for the signals to put things together so we can get more information. But when this system of processing gets applied to intuition, these same systems can actually distort the guidance because instead of following the intuitive invitation, leave, the construct starts interpreting, justifying, storytelling, or even suppressing or making you doubt and look away. And over time, these processes become automatic. And eventually, you may even think, I can't hear my intuition. I thought I knew something, but I just lost it. But really, what you're hearing is the processing that happens once you heard your intuition. So the intuition comes in, and it immediately gets processed through that old pattern and the mental construct. So there are a few loops or constructs that I give names to. And the first one is the fear storytelling loop, where your clear intuition says, leave. And then the construct says, you'll fail, lose money, disappoint people. You can't do that now. Look at what's happening all over the world. You can't do this. And then that fear storytelling becomes the place where you get stuck. You can't move behind it because it gets overlaid with all of the fear and emotional construct. So now this mental construct has activated an emotional construct, and you kind of stay stuck in that storytelling. Then there's the sign seeking loop. So you've received the information, but instead of acting, you're looking like a safari for numbers and signs and signals and affirmations. And those can all be well and good, but it's actually taking that initial intuition and projecting outward for affirmation instead of trusting that it's true. So, signs and signals are fine and fun, and they can be used as a reflection back to you to tell you, oh, yes, that's your intuition speaking. But it's not meant to replace the original intuition. So, signs and signals can be supplemental and reflective back, but don't look for them as the way you operate from. Now, this one is what I call the crowdsourcing loop. When your intuition comes in and you either get excited about it or you get a little freaked out about it, or you just it's out of the blue and you do know what to do with it. That's when you start asking, going to different readers, getting sessions, polling your friends, um, doing a bunch of tarot card readings, using a pendulum, checking in with your astrologer. And the thing is, all of those in context can be good to some point, but what happens is you are outsourcing and overlaying all of that information and all of that projection, if it comes back to you as a projection, over your own initial signal. So, getting clarity or having someone help you get a perspective around next steps of investigating is probably a better option rather than crowdsourcing everybody's opinion and then it gets all muddied with your own original signal. And this next one I am guilty of. I still sometimes do this. It's called the over processing loop. It's where you get the intuition and then you go to your journal and you spend an hour and then you analyze what came up and then you say, oh, I have to integrate this and really integrate it into my life, and all of that feels like you're really getting stuff done. It feels productive, but actually you've just been going around the same intuition and just looking at it and looking at it, and it just becomes fancy avoidance and you haven't really acted on the intuition. And then this one is also another type of loop. It's called the certainty loop, and it's one that so many of us have, where we get the intuition and then we just stop ourselves, like the mental construct just comes down like a cage and says, wait, stop, we need to have verification and we need to feel 100% safe before we can act. But what that does is it keeps us stuck in a waiting period for a very long time because we haven't actually moved towards investigating that intuition. When you start moving and use your curiosity towards what the intuition was, that's when certainty can start to appear because you are engaging with your intuition, and that brings clarity with the movement. Okay, now I'm including this section because I think a lot of the people that will come and view this or are on a spiritual journey may have this as something that they aren't aware of, but it happens all the time. We are energetic people. We have our fields, our auric fields, our energetic bodies, our emotional bodies, these construct bodies. And if you are practicing expanding your perception, you become aware of collective emotions, collective fields of energy, multidimensional information. And sometimes what you're perceiving isn't personal guidance, it's just something that comes into your awareness for your more information. So that's something that you need to remember is when you are going out and about, your energy system is interacting with other energy systems. And if you aren't making it a habit to tell your spirit team that you're open and available for that which is for you, and to be clear and direct, and come with a clear objective of what you need to do, then you may just take this information in as though it's your intuition. So, not everything that you perceive is yours to act on. So, pause before assuming it's your intuition, especially if it feels like it's urgent, overwhelming, and activating, or emotionally flooding. That's kind of where you may start to notice there's a collective field that you might have engaged in. So, here's some simple ways how to break the loop and kind of deactivate those constructs. When you notice yourself in one of those types of loops, just pause and you can go back to the original signal. Before you got the story, before you got all of the other added on layers of everything, what was that original signal before the story began? And that's interrupting the construct. Then you're going to ask, okay, what is one small step that explores this intuition? And don't immediately go up into your mind. Just allow that to land within you. You put your hand on your heart if that helps. Say, okay, this is the original signal. What's the one small step that it explores what came in? You're not looking to solve it. You're just exploring it. You don't have to have the project plan. We're not getting stuck in stories of everything that you have to do. You are just breaking the loop, breaking that construct flow so that you can take that intuition and just notice it and explore it with one small step. So, what this is doing is it's shifting your mind into supporting your intuition instead of overriding it. So the intuition presents to the mind directly for support, not for the mind to override it, control it, narrate it, spin it, and go into that default. Okay, so I have prepared a few questions based on the things that I see in client sessions, things that have come up that were submitted through newsletters, response for questions, and I put together a little bit of an amalgamation for that. So, one of the questions is, how do I know if it's intuition or if it's just fear? So, intuition comes first. And remember, it's simple, it's not emotionally charged. So, intuition is simple. And if fear comes after and creates a story, you've activated this construct. If there's a long internal narrative, you're in that loop. And so that means that you can stop and say, okay, what was the initial intuition? And then from there, present it as saying, okay, I'm just going to investigate it and I'm not going to get stuck in that emotionally charged story. I mean, you may get a call out from a guardian guide that says shark or stop, but that's a guardian guide message. That's different from your regular intuition, which is also simple. But a guardian guide may give you a one word that feels urgent, but that is different. And along with that, between fear and intuition, is another question that comes up. It's like, well, what if my intuition really does bring up fear and concerns that are actually valid? Okay, absolutely. They may be valid, but valid concerns um, don't invalidate the intuition. So the intuition may be true, but you may actually have to do practical planning in order to follow it if it is a deep inner truth. So, knowing your intuition and it's not coming in an emotional way doesn't mean that you won't have fear come up. You just don't want it running you. You can use that fear as information and say, okay, I understand that this whole process of maybe following this intuition may bring up valid things that I have to consider, but the intuition is still true. Okay. So, here's another question. Can mental constructs be dissolved over time? Yes. We are never going to rid ourselves of constructs. They're very useful shortcut patterns that our brain uses and our energetic bodies use to help us navigate without having to, mentally, consciously um, to process things. But we're talking about intuition, the constructs that stop your intuition, when you make yourself aware of loops and then stopping to go back to the original intuition, the more you notice them and then not follow the construct story, the less automatic they become. The more pause there is, the more presence there is, the more clearly you receive it and go, oh, I need to investigate that. I need to act on that. I need to explore that. And what happens is you create a reliable relationship and trust of your intuition that starts to short circuit that patterning and programming of the construct. And there's another thought of like, oh, I'm not that intuitive. People have come and said, I'm not that intuitive, although I sometimes am. I don't think, I can really do this. And it doesn't matter if you've ignored your intuition, you miss it, or you feel you miss it all the time. It comes into you regardless whether you consciously are aware of it or if a construct is running it. You don't lose your intuition. It comes preloaded and you can't take out that operating system of your intuition. And so what you're doing is with this process is creating a way to rebuild trust in being able to sense, know, follow your intuition. So once you can see and have an awareness of your intuition coming up, stopping the looping, and then coming back for that guidance, you start to again create a reliable relationship of trusting yourself, trusting your intuition, and working with your spirit team and what is being offered to you as an invitation to explore. Your intuition comes in into your subconscious and in your dreams and informs you all other sorts of ways, even if you aren't consciously aware. So there's there isn't anybody alive that isn't got an internal navigating system. But what we're trying to do here is to have it more accessible and be a co-partner in co-creating things that we would like to enjoy and experience with that. Okay, so I think that's it for today. I hope something here helps you in some way shift a perspective. This is just the perspective that I see, and I've been shown by my spirit team in sessions and in myself that I thought might be helpful for you. Take what resonates, leave the rest. And, if you see these kind of loops overriding your intuition and you'd like support moving through them, I offer sessions that can support you. With your spirit team, we could identify where that override is happening and clear the space around it, help you feel more connected with your original intuitive signal, and from there, discover your next step. And you can learn more about these sessions at my website and schedule at angelaryder.com. Thank you.